The lights flickered in the narrow concrete hallway of ADX Florence. Alarms screamed. Red warning lights spun like angry eyes. Inside the isolation block known as H-Unit, chaos had just exploded. Two prisoners, both locked in their tiny cells, were shouting through the steel doors. Words filled with anger, fear, and betrayal. One of them, known inside as Reek, had managed to slide a sharpened piece of metal through the meal slot of his door. He wasn't supposed to have it. No one was. But somehow he did. And now the guard lying on the floor nearby, clutching his bleeding arm, was proof of how far things had gone wrong. Through the glass, another inmate named Cruz watched silently from his own cell, his eyes sharp and cold. He had seen this kind of thing before. At ADX Florence, the Supermax of all Supermaxes, nothing happened by accident. Every riot, every fight, every scream, someone planned it. Suddenly, Reek's voice echoed through the block. "They think they can lock us down forever," he yelled, pounding on the steel door with his fists. The sound traveled down the hall like thunder. Other inmates began shouting too, their voices overlapping, some cheering, some panicking, some praying. Inside the control room above, guards watched everything through cameras. But even with all that security, even with doors made of solid steel, they couldn't stop the tension from boiling over. One wrong move and the entire block could erupt. A heavy click echoed down the corridor. The sound meant only one thing. The automatic door to Reek's section was being unlocked remotely. Someone in the control tower was taking a risk, maybe trying to get the injured guard out. Reek froze, his breathing fast. He turned toward the door, still gripping his weapon. Across the hall, Cruz stood at his cell window, eyes locked on him. "Don't do it, man," Cruz muttered under his breath. "They'll be, who are you in there if you move?" But Reek didn't listen. He was too far gone, too angry, too desperate after years of silence and walls closing in. The red light above his cell turned green. The door clanked, heavy bolts sliding open. Everyone in the block went silent. Even the alarms seemed to fade. Reek took one small step forward, his hand trembling as he held the blade tight. And just as he crossed the threshold, the power went out. The whole prison went dark. Total silence followed. Then came the sound. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Coming from somewhere inside the pitch-black hallway. "Who's there?" Reek shouted. No answer. Only more footsteps. Then, a voice, low and steady. "You should have never started this." A bright flash lit the hallway, followed by the sound of something slamming metal against metal. Then a scream. And just like that, the world inside ADX Florence turned to darkness again. When the emergency lights flicked back on, the hallway glowed red like fire through smoke. Reek was gone. Only his dropped shank lay near the open cell door, smeared with something dark. The injured guard had vanished too. From inside his cell, Cruz pressed his face against the tiny window, trying to see through the flashing light. The rest of the block was silent now. No shouting, no noise. Just the soft hum of electricity and the sound of someone breathing hard, somewhere close. "Control, this is H-Unit," a guard's voice finally broke through the speaker overhead. "We've got a situation. 2 unaccounted for." The steel door slammed shut across the corridor, sealing every inmate inside again. But Cruz wasn't thinking about the guards. He was thinking about Reek. The man had been planning something for months, talking in coded whispers during meal times, tapping messages through the pipes. And now whatever he'd been planning had started. Cruz leaned back on his bunk, trying to stay calm. In ADX Florence, you didn't survive by being the toughest. You survived by being quiet, by thinking 3 steps ahead. He knew the gangs in here were still alive, even if they were locked in boxes all day. Messages still moved, orders still spread. He remembered how it began weeks ago when Reek got a letter. It came from another prison, disguised as a Bible verse, but full of hidden meaning. "The storm comes when the walls go dark," it said. Cruz had seen that phrase before. It was code. Someone outside wanted a riot inside. That same night, rumors started. A group called the Iron Chain, a prison gang with reach in 3 states, wanted to show the world that ADX couldn't control them. They planned to cause a blackout, take a guard hostage, and broadcast a message to the news somehow. No one believed it was possible. Until now. Suddenly, the speaker crackled again. "All units prep. Are for extraction. Lockdown level red." Then the heavy sound of boots thundered down the hall. Riot officers in black gear, shields up, weapons ready. They stopped near Reek's empty cell. "Cell's open," one said. "Inmate missing. He couldn't have gone far." Another replied, "Then where's the guard?" Before they could move further, a faint banging echoed from the vent above Cruz's cell. 3 short taps, then 1 long. He froze. That was the Iron Chain's signal. Someone was still alive, still sending messages through the vents. He stood on his bed and pressed his ear to the metal. "Who's there?" he whispered. A low voice answered through the vent, quiet but clear. "It's not over, Cruz. They're opening C Block next." Cruz's heart pounded. C Block was full of lifers, men worse than Reek. If they were released, even for minutes, the whole prison could fall into chaos. Then the voice whispered again, slower this time. "When the lights die again, run." The alarm blared once more. Red lights flashed faster. And then, for the second time that night, everything went dark. The second blackout hit harder than the first. The entire prison shook as if the building itself was angry. Somewhere above, a generator failed with a deep, rumbling boom. Smoke filled the vents. The air turned thick. Cruz could barely see, but he could feel it. Something big was happening. The hallway outside his cell echoed with pounding feet, the metallic slam of doors, the hiss of radio static, and the crackle of emergency sparks. He pressed his ear to the vent again. "Talk to me. What's happening?" No reply, only the hum of power lines struggling to stay alive. Then a blinding white emergency light snapped on at the far end of the corridor. For a moment, Cruz saw shadows moving. 4, maybe 5 figures in orange jumpsuits. One of them limped, dragging a metal pole that sparked against the floor. Cruz's heart jumped. That was Reek. He was alive. But now he wasn't yelling or swinging his weapon. He was leading. Behind him, 2 other inmates from C Block followed, faces half covered with towels to block the smoke. Somehow, Reek had unlocked more cells. He had done the impossible, broken free inside the most secure prison in America. From the tower, a robotic voice shouted through the speaker system, "All inmates, lie flat on the floor. Lethal force authorized." Cruz watched, frozen. This was no longer just a fight. It was a war between men who had lost everything and a system built to keep them invisible. Reek stopped in the middle of the hallway, eyes blazing under the red light. "They treat us like ghosts," he shouted. "Let's show them we're still alive." He swung the metal pole against a camera, shattering it. Sparks flew. The other prisoners cheered, their voices echoing like thunder in the narrow block. Then, a flashbang exploded. The hallway filled with white light and smoke. The sound was so loud it shook the walls. When the haze cleared, guards in blue armor stormed in, shields up, shouting commands. One by one, the inmates dropped, coughing, covering their faces. But Reek didn't. He turned toward Cruz's cell, blood running down his cheek. "You said I'd never get out," he said, voice rough. "Looks like I did." Before Cruz could answer, a guard tackled Reek to the ground. The sound of handcuffs clanking filled the corridor. The riot was over in seconds. but the damage was done. Hours later, as dawn crept through the razor wire fences, Cruz sat on his bunk, staring at the ceiling. The power was back. The hall was silent again. He heard a voice from the vent, soft, tired, almost human this time. They moved Reek to deeper isolation. Said he's never coming out again. Cruz didn't reply, he just looked at the gray wall in front of him. In ADX Florence, no one really got out. Not Reek, not Cruz, not anyone. And as the morning shift began, the red lights faded, replaced by the dull hum of the prison's machinery. Somewhere far down the corridor, a single door clicked shut. The storm was over. But in the quiet, Cruz couldn't help thinking, how long before the next one begins?